Hello everybody and welcome to Wesley's Plant World with me, Wesley Peterson, and today we are out in the area of my garden called Yorkim's Corner, and here I am enshrouded in lots of different kinds of ferns and I love their fronds, and then I have my evergreen bushes behind me and all sorts going on and a beautiful canopy above my head. And this area has a little enclave, as you can see here, that I'm crouching down in. And I've just bought myself this absolutely fantastic container here. It is a plastic container, so it's lightweight, that has been fired over to give it a bronze look. So it really looks like a real bronze container. And I think it's the absolute perfect colour to be in the middle of this area. Now, this is an area where we never come and sit in as a seating area, so I thought I'd like to have a lovely centerpiece, because just behind the camera I have my northern facing windows of our crystal cottage, and when I look through the windows there, I'd like to have something that catches my eye and draws my attention to the center of the area, and then everything else that's going on around the edges. So this is an absolutely perfect pot for this. This is around 44 centimeters high and 63 centimeters wide, and in this pot I want to place a plant that has leaves that are very different contrast to everything else that's going on around here, so that it becomes a real statement piece. And the plant I'm going to be putting in here is a hosta that can get quite tall, quite wide, and it can grow huge leaves. So let me show you exactly what it is before I get on with the planting. So the hosta that I'm going to be planting in my lovely pot is this gorgeous bundle I have in front of me here now. This plant is known as Hosta Royal Standard, and it has lovely flowers that are very fragrant, which is also going to be a beautiful centerpiece here and fill out the area with a gorgeous scent, and the scent of the flowers becomes stronger during the evening times. And the leaves on this plant can get to around 30 centimeters long and around 20 centimeters wide, so they can get really big. And this plant can be anything from 60 centimeters to over a meter tall and around the same wide as well, and it grows into a bigger and bigger mass with time. So with the years, everything will get taller, wider, bigger and bigger leaves. And then you'll get lots of lovely white toned flowers that come out. And it is just fabulous. Now, this plant, along with many of the other hostas I have going on in my garden, has quite a bit of slug damage on the leaves. But putting it in this pot is going to help. And another thing that will help with that is that I'm going to put some grit around the top of the soil to stop the slugs, because slugs do not like to crawl over anything that's gritty because it sticks to them and so forth. So that should help this plant a lot. But I have a leaf here you need to see that is absolutely beautiful. So the shape of this leaf is kind of egg-shaped, and it gets a kind of heart shape. So you have the pointed tip, and then it rounds in at the bottom kind of like a heart. And the leaves can be very differently shaped. Some are more narrow and long and pointed, and some are more egg-shaped and round and heart-shaped. So it depends on their maturity and so forth. But look already now at the size of this leaf compared to my head. That leaf has to be around the 30 centimeters long and 20 centimeters wide, and we'll see if they get any bigger with time. But I'm really loving the look of this plant. It's got this lovely light greenish colour, and it can change anything from very light green, limey, to a darker green colour, depending on whether it's more in a sunny situation or a shady situation. But what a perfect plant and a perfect colour to put in my lovely bronze coloured pot. So I'm going to take this plant and I'm going to place by the side here until I'm finished working with my pot. So what I want to do here is I've bought myself a couple of bags of leca balls, which are clay aggregate balls that are lightweight, that I can spread around in the bottom to give a layer where I know there will be plenty of good drainage, because this container is down on the ground, but it does have a lot of holes in the bottom and ridges and divots and heights. It's a special pot, so that's quite good. So I'll fill up with some leca balls, probably just around 2 inches, and then I will mix the leca balls into the garden soil that I've bought, and I've only bought a normal garden soil. That is plenty enough. I will mix in some of the leca balls, and then this plant will be good to go. I don't feel like I need any sand added to the mix, because the soil that I've bought is light and fluffy, and then the leca balls will keep it loose and water will be able to drain through the pot all the way to the bottom. But this plant anyway likes to stay a little bit moist because that will encourage bigger, robust leaves. So I want to keep it happy. So right, the first thing before I actually put any leca balls in here is I'm going to get myself a plastic pot that I turn upside down to put in the middle. So I have a normal gardening pot here, a plastic pot that I turn upside down and place in the middle of my container, because that way when it becomes frosty, I know that this pot can expand and move around without breaking anyway on the sides, and that shouldn't happen anyway because I've bought this pot because it is supposed to be able to cope with the frosty minus degrees that we get during the winter here. Another reason why I put an upside down pot in the middle is I don't need to fill up this whole container with soil, so it saves a little bit of soil and it gives the plant a support so that if the soil starts sinking down in the pot, well then there'll be an elevation in the middle that will keep this plant up anyway, and then you can just add more soil around the edge or so forth. So let me get my leca balls now around in the bottom before I start mixing them into the rest of the soil to put in my pot. Now leca balls are something I use quite extensively. I use leca balls in my house plants because I use semi-hydroponics with a lot of my plants. So now I have a good layer of leca balls, and now I can start adding my soil and then these leca balls into the soil at the same time. You know what, before I add the soil and the leca balls, when I bought this container, I actually got some bubble wrap, and this is really good to place on the inside of your pots as well. If you think they're quite thin and you want to protect your plant from frost, well, you can put bubble wrap around the outer edge inside the pot, and that way you will have an extra layer of insulation around your plant that is going in there. So I'm going to use this to my advantage here. So here I have my planting soil. Open the bag and start pouring in, basically. So start adding my soil to get control of my bubble wrap first, making sure that the bubble wrap is not laying on the bottom so that it's on top of the leca balls and so forth, making sure it's just on the edges so that the drainage doesn't get disturbed. More leca balls in the mix, like that. Quick and easy. Now I'm actually ready to put my plant in so I can see how much depth and soil I need. A little bit more depth. I want the plant really right up to the top. More soil, more leca balls. Now you can't say this isn't going to be well draining, right? With the amount of leca balls that I'm mixing in with this soil here. Mix, mix, mix. There we go. Start filling out the edges, like that. Now, let's see if that's deep enough to put my plant in. So now I have my plant in my pot and it looks absolutely fantastic, filling out perfectly. And I love the colour of these leaves compared to this bronze coloured pot. So now I'm ready to just carry on filling with soil and leca balls, and then covering up this bubble wrap and then I will be done with this plant. No, I've actually just thought of something to pep this up even more. I have some alliums that get quite tall. They can get between 80 centimeters to over a meter tall, and they get these lovely big purple balls. So I'm going to get those alliums and place them in amongst these plants so that earlier in the season I will get these big balls of allium flowers, and they'll look like they're part of this plant. And then after they finish flowering, this plant will flower out with its lovely fragrant white flowers. Won't that be an amazing combination? I'm just going to get them now. So I just managed to find myself a couple of these bulbs from this beautiful Allium giganteum ambassador, and one of them is around 1.20 meters tall and the other one is around the meter. So they are really, really big, and I'll just put some pictures on the screen here so you can see just how beautiful they were with their purple flowers earlier this season, so that you can see what they're going to look like, and then you'll be able to imagine this look in amongst my beautiful hostas behind me. Won't that be amazing? And just for now, you can see these lovely seed heads on these plants, and then the really long stalks, and then a couple of these bulbs that I'm going to place in my pot to get this lovely look. And you can just imagine now, with these leaves getting taller and taller, and then these purple flowers flushing out in the middle, it's going to look like they are part of the hostas. So let me get a couple of these in place and see if they can stand up while I go and get my soil. So now I've filled up my pot with what I think is enough lecker balls all around. So I'm going to top the whole thing off with soil, and then the whole thing will get a layer of gravel on top of that as well to stop the pesky slugs. And now I need to make sure that this bubble wrap disappears completely under the soil. So there we go, there is my pot planted up with my beautiful hostas here, the beautiful Hosta plantaginea cross Hosta Sieboldiana. And this is absolutely amazing, and these plants are just coming into flowering now, so it's going to be gorgeous very, very soon. And I have my Alliums giganteum ambassador in the middle here that will give beautiful purple flowers next season as well. But until then, I do love their lovely seed pods, and they just look like they're part of this plant. So now let me get all the gravel on top of this plant before I give it a good watering in. So here I have my 20-kilogram bag of gravel, and we'll place this around to stop the pesky slugs. This little bag is a bit heavy for me to carry, so I'm going to get myself actually a little scoop so that I can scoop around the gravel. So here we go. Now I'm actually done. And there we have it, my gorgeous hosta pot here that looks absolutely fantastic. I am so pleased with this, and I know these plants are going to be so amazing next year without lots of slug damage holes in them. But the leaves that are still looking wonderful on this plant right now will be able to carry on now and look gorgeous, and it will be able to carry on flowering out for me wonderfully here. So now let me take you in for a closer look so you can really get to see how this pot is looking now. So I really hope you enjoyed seeing me planting up my lovely bronze coloured plastic container with my gorgeous hosta and my alliums. And well, I just think it looks amazing, and I'm going to really enjoy looking at this display through my northern facing windows of my crystal cottage. So I'm not going to be fertilizing this plant for this season because now it's in new soil and it will get nutrients from that. So it will just be kept watered, and it's been raining a lot, so it will get rained through. I know it has plenty of drainage. I know it has protection around the edge inside and on top, and there's nothing else to really think about. This plant is not fussy about the soil as long as it's well draining. And it will be able to live in this container all year round, every year for years to come now. And it will just mound out, and it will just get enormous and fill out this space wonderfully. So all I have to say now is thank you very much once again for watching this video. Please remember to like, subscribe and hit the bell so you know when my next video will be coming up. And I will see you again very soon. Goodbye.